Hi, Eric Gibaud, Gibaud.com, and today, after 3 years, I have to make again a video about sensor sizes. I still read so many things that are wrong about it, some myths, some stories people say that are not true. Okay, so we're not going to speak about if a sensor is better than the other or superior than the other. That's not the story, but tell you the facts, okay, and explain how it affects or not your photography. A bit like, I explain a bit like the books, the sensor sizes for dummies, I will say, okay? But yes, it's not to offend anyone, and it's not to say this one is better than the other one. That's not the idea. So let's start. This video is because once more, this morning I read on a Facebook group, a guy was asking, what is better, aps-c or full frame sensor? And that's good to ask. I understand that people ask. But the answers were just mad. I mean, they were making some statements that were really completely wrong, and they proved that they never ever read the specifications of the cameras on the website of the maker. You just go there and can read it. You have all this information. So this is incredible. So we're going to speak about some specs and some features and what differences there are depending on the sensor size you're actually using. Okay. First, let's speak about sensor sizes. The largest one are the phase one. Hasselblad adds the H series, but they stopped it. Okay, and this is the largest sensor, 54 by 40.5 millimeter. Okay, then you have another medium format. That was the largest medium format. Now you have the smaller medium format with the Fujifilm JFX, Hasselblad X, and Pentax 645Z, I think. I can't remember the name, I'm not sure. 43.8 millimeter by 32.9. Then you have full frame, 36 by 24. As you can see, this is a quarter of the surface of a phase one sensor, okay? Then you have aps-c. You have several sizes in aps-c. The Sony size, which is 23.6 by 15.7. Fujifilm 23.5 by 15.6. Then Canon's a bit smaller, 22.2 by 14.8. But well, more or less all aps-c sensors have really similar sizes, okay? Then you have Micro Four Thirds, that is 17.3 millimeter by 13 millimeter. And then 1 inch, but 1 inch is actually a lie, because tell the size by length and height, but when you speak of 1 inch, then it's diagonal, like your TV, okay? It's 13.2 millimeters by 8.8, and what is 1 inch is a diagonal, okay? So actually, some people think, oh, this is really similar to Micro Four Thirds. No, it's not similar, because this is not 15 millimeter, is not the length, but it's a diagonal, okay? So it's smaller, okay? And there are more sizes, okay? But still, most people, when they doubt, they're among full frame, aps-c, maybe Micro Four Thirds, maybe medium format, but it doesn't matter. What I'm going to explain now will serve for everything, and you will be able to move around this woods of sensors, you know, like Sherwoods, okay? Robin Hood, okay? So let's carry on. So we're getting to the dummy part. Don't get offended, okay? Let's imagine a building is actually our sensor. So here you have two buildings. One is a big building, which is a large sensor, and one is a small building, which is a small sensor. So in theory, according to what people say, the big building receives more light than the small building. But if you notice, the large building has many windows, and the small building has less windows, but also larger windows, okay? Let's get inside. Okay, here you have two rooms. They're exactly more or less the same size. And as you see, one has a very small window and you don't get much light, and the other one has a large window and you get a lot of light. And this is regardless of the size of the building. You're in the room where you live, you spend your life in there, your time in there, and you see the amount of light that comes in. And it's relevant if the building is massive or it's really tiny, okay? Well, a sensor is the same thing. A sensor, you have the surface of the sensor, the size of the sensor, that is a building, but then you have to decide how many windows you have and the size of each windows. And this depends on the resolution of the sensor. The higher the resolution, the more windows you need, and the smaller the resolution, the less windows you need. If it's for the same surface, well, that means that when you have less windows, each window is larger. So if we translate to cameras, well, this is called photoset, and it means that actually a window on a full frame sensor of 64 million pixels receive less light than a sensor, aps-c sensor of 26 million pixels, because each window on the aps-c in this case is larger than this full frame with a massive resolution. Okay, so it's not always the case. If we have an aps-c with 26 million pixels and a full frame with 26 million pixels, yes, the full frame has larger windows for a larger surface. Okay, so it gets more light. So it means you cannot state that a smaller sensor receives less light without indicating the resolution, so it gives you the size of each small windows. Okay, normally when you go to the camera specification, you get the size of the photoset, and actually you can calculate it. You just divide the resolution by the surface and it will give you the size of each small hole. Okay, so you know the size. You don't live in a room thinking about the rest of the windows for the rest of the building. The only thing that matters is the light that gets through your window in the room where you are. Okay, in a camera it's exactly the same thing. So please stop stating that larger sensor get more light. That does not work this way. Okay, another mistake I hear very often, and they say, yes, but larger sensors have larger lenses, so you get more light. No, that's not the way it works. The size of the lens, the size of the aperture, but let's speak about just the size of the lens, is to cover the sensor. But it covers what it needs. If your sensor is larger, obviously you need to have a circle that is larger to cover the full sensor. But then each window behind, each photoset, will get the light it needs. It doesn't matter how much enters through here. What's important is each there. Because when they say that, is as stupid or absurd as, I see this filter, well, imagine it was completely see-through, transparent, no black, okay, no ND filters. I place it here, I say, oh, as the diameter is larger, then I will get more light on my sensor. This is as absurd, okay? So no, the fact that the size of the lens is larger is to cover the surface of the sensor, not to get more light, okay? Another massive mistake we all make, I include myself because I say it very often, that the depth of field is different depending on the sensor, and this is not true. The depth of field does not depend at all on the sensor size. It depends on the physical size of the hole in your lens. Let's say it's 1 centimeter wide, this hole, diameter, it doesn't matter the aperture you put, but 1 centimeter, let's say, okay, on this aperture, okay. You place it on a medium format camera, and then you place it on a micro four thirds camera. If you have the same scale of reproduction, obviously you will need to move forward or backward to have the same framing. You will see that with the same diameter of this physical hole, okay, you get exactly the same depth of field, okay. So why do we set different? Well, basically because on a micro four thirds, for example, you don't need a 2 or 3 or 4 centimeter diameter hole, so it's smaller. So obviously you don't get this massive hole there. But if you would use a medium format lens with an adapter on a micro four thirds, and then you place you place yourself to the right scale of reproduction, then you would get exactly the same depth of field. Okay, so it's really important to understand that it's not a matter of sensor size, but a matter of physical size of the hole of your lens, okay, depending on the aperture you make, okay. So this is a half-truth, half-lie, because it really depends on the gear you have and the lens you use and the situation, okay. But yes, you could obtain exactly the same depth of field if you have the same size of the hole and if you have the same scale of reproduction, okay, framing, basically, okay. Another mistake we hear very often is larger sensors have less noise at high ISO than smaller sensors. This is not true. It, once more, depends on the size of the photoset, the small window, okay? The smaller the window, the more noise at high ISO, and the larger the windows, the less noise. It means a 60 million pixel aps-c sensor has less noise than a 61 million pixel full frame. But maybe you don't see the difference. Why? First, because they don't make 16 million pixel sensors anymore, okay? So it's not just a sensor and the photo side, it's also the processor you have in the camera. So you should compare nowadays cameras. Compare your 26 million pixel aps-c with a 61 million pixel full frame, and you will see that you have less noise in the aps-c than the full frame. So once more, you cannot say it's always like this. It depends. Obviously, if you have the 26 million pixel aps-c and a 26 million pixel full frame, you will have less noise on the full frame likely, okay? But it still depends on the processor also. So you cannot make that statement without having all the information about the camera it is, when it was made, and the technology it uses, and the amount of pixels, obviously. Let's speak a bit more about the ISO. Very often people say, yeah, but if you compare both cameras, same resolution, okay, I've got more noise in small sensor than large sensor. Okay, and when they show that on YouTube or tests, they are right. This is true. But now let's go to real life. You and I, we're going to do a wedding. We're in the church and we have the bride and the groom next to each other, and I want to have both in focus because I don't want to see one and the other one is lost, okay? So on my Micro Four Third, I will be on 2.8. And you, let's say you take a full frame camera, so we see more the difference, okay? To have both in focus depends on how far you are and the focal length you're using, but let's say more or less with 5.6, you will have both in focus, okay? And knowing the lights you get in a church, you're probably on 6400 ISO. Yes, at 5.6. But I'm on 2.8, it means that 5.6 down to f4, that's one stop, down to 2.8 is two stops. So when you're on 6400 ISO, I'm down to 3200, 1600 ISO. So we probably have the same noise in our pictures. You're on 6400 ISO and I am on 1600 ISO. So when people say you get more noise or this, in real life, normally not. Very often, this is a big benefit to have a smaller sensor in low light because of the way you use it. Because photography is not just theory and paper, it's aesthetic, the way it looks. And yes, if I want to have both in focus, 2.8, I normally get them. You don't. If I need to be on f4, then you need to be on f8. We're still on the same difference. So we probably get exactly the same noise in our pictures, regardless of the camera we use. And obviously, if you say, oh, church, I need to be on 6400, and you're using a Micro Four Third, no. You need to be on what you need. Don't think about what you have on your full frame. Learn how to use your camera in Micro Four Third, okay? And this morning I was reading, a guy said, yeah, but full frame has more colors than aps-c. No, that's not true. Both have 14 bits of color, okay? Full frame and aps-c. What has less is Micro Four Third that has 12 bits of color, and some medium format cameras, some also have 14 bits and some have 16 bits, so even more colors, okay? But when you speak difference between aps-c and full frame, saying that one has more colors, this is not true at all. They could check on the specs of the camera maker, okay? Another thing I hear very often, some people say, yeah, but 2.8 at ISO 200, for example, or doesn't matter, and such speed gives more light on a full frame or medium format than an aps-c or Micro Four Third. Whoa. Okay, the angle of view is different. Let's say I take a 50mm lens, I place it on my full frame, it gives me an angle. I place the same 50mm on my Micro Four Third, I get off the angle that is covered, okay? It's like if I had a 100mm on my full frame to have the similar angle, okay? Still, the millimeters don't change. What changes is the angle that is covered, okay? So that's okay. Regarding depth of field, we spoke about it before, okay? So let's speak about the amount of light. Here I've got a seconic light meter, and as you can see here, I can indicate if it's flash or natural light or whatever, the speed, the ISO, and here it will calculate the f-stop, okay? where is the part where I need to indicate the sensor size? Because I understand that if, depending on the sensor, the amount of light is different, then when I use my light meter, I should indicate the sensor size. Where is it? Oh, there's a fly here, okay? Don't look for it. It's not there. Why? Because it's another big lie. There is no difference. No difference. 2.8 ISO 100 and speed 1/25 of a second on any sensor size will give you the same amount of light. Okay? So otherwise you would need to pick the sensor size on your light meter. It's not the case. Okay? We often say or hear that larger sensors have a higher dynamic range, and that's true. But people have a strange way to interpret this data, even famous YouTubers and influencers and blah blah blah. Okay, let's say you have a dynamic range of 13 and a camera with 15. Most people think you have a better dynamic range, one stop in the highlights and one stop in the shadows. Okay, that's not the way it works. If there are two stop differences, both of them are in the shadows. Okay, that means that, yeah, you will be able to recover better the low light and the shadows, okay? Get some details in there. But in the highlights, the difference is not much, sometimes nothing, okay? So if your idea is to pay for extra dynamic range and you're going to make a sky photography with clouds, white clouds, all this, you won't see difference. Now, if your idea is to work street photography, when you get from the highlights in the sky and the shadows on the street, yes, you will see a difference. So it all depends on what you want to do. I see it on my Hasselblad 907X. Yes, I recover the shadows a lot better than on Micro Four Thirds, or a lot better than my full frame. Okay, you see the difference. But in highlights, well, between the full frame and my Hasselblad, yeah, difference not much, okay? It's a bit, but not much. It's really in the shadows that you see the difference. So when they sell you better dynamic range, you need to know what you're going to do with this camera and will you actually use this benefit, okay? Because maybe you pay a premium price for something you're not going to notice any results, okay? So some people will say, yeah, Eric, in theory, well, what you say is right, okay, but I've got an aps-c camera or a Micro Four Thirds camera and a full frame camera I just bought. I see a massive difference. Yeah, what do you have? Well, I've got a Nikon D3500 and I've got a Nikon Z7 Mark II. Yeah, luckily there's a difference. You know, you don't speak about the same range of camera, same level. One is top of the range, other one is entry level. Okay, so obviously there is a difference. And maybe on your 3500 D3500 you have entry-level kit lens, and then on your full frame Z7 Mark II you have a really good lens. So obviously you see a difference. The technology is different, so luckily you see a difference. It would be really sad if you didn't see a difference. But if you had compared same level of camera, like let's say top of the range aps-c and a good full frame, you probably see similar results. Okay, some people say, yeah, but I see more sharpness on my full frame than on my aps-c. Yeah, but that's also the lens. Some brands, they really limit their aps-c line, like, well, yeah, Canon, Nikon, also some lenses. Okay, so it means that you should compare the same level. If you check a Canon M50 and you place some third party like a Sigma lens, probably you see some similar results because sharpness is really good, okay? So you must compare what's comparable. And some people say, yeah, but I still see more details in my full frame or medium format than on my aps-c. Yeah, but what resolution do you have? Because if you get a Fuji X-T5 with 40 million pixels, you get a lot more details than a full frame with 26 million or 21 million pixels. So it depends on the resolution. So most people, they do see a difference, but not because it's a sensor matter. It's because there are different cameras, different lenses, different technology, different everything. But if they were getting cameras from the same level, they would probably not see much difference. For people like me who use different sensor sizes, you realize that depending on what you want to do and what you're going to do, you pick one or the other. And you do get the results, and it depends on what gear you have, not the fact that the sensor is larger or smaller, okay? So you probably think, then any camera is fine. I could buy any sensor size, doesn't matter. When just editing, the sound went off. I think the battery was gone on the English, so I was just on the conclusion. Yeah, you need to study exactly the sensor according to what you want to do. Obviously, if you want to do highlights or some recovering shadows or whatever, then that you may need one sensor or another. Obviously, you're not going to buy 3, 4, 5 cameras. That's logical. That is why you should study. But I think a lot better than exactly the sensor size. It's more important to see all the feature around. You're going to do sport photography. Well, check if the autofocus is fast, or the burst rate, or you want some specific feature than just this brand or that brand actually has. So this is a lot more important than sensor size. Also study the available lenses for the camera you would like to buy, because maybe you want such brand but you don't have much to pick, so that's a problem. And there are so many things that are a lot more important than sensor size. So yes, sensor may matter depending on what you want to do, but a lot more things are more important than the sensor size, okay? And honestly, I use all sensor sizes. I can say each, they are okay depending on how you use them and for what situation. But thinking that larger sensors are better for everything, this is a wrong thinking. They are better in their field, and some smaller sensors are better in their field, okay? So you cannot make any general statement depending on the sensor size, saying bigger is better. That's not true. So thank you very much for watching the video. Sorry for this sound problem at the end. Thank you for your patience because it was a bit long. And if you feel this video may interest other people, please share it on social networks. If you have not done it yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Small button down here is a small bell. If you click on the bell, get notified when I upload a new video. My website, Gibaud.com. If you have any question, you can leave a comment below. Also leave your links of my gear on Amazon, links of everything I've reviewed by K&F Concept, Sandmarc, and Flashes by Westcott. More affiliated links, and also a link to my PayPal account in case you wanted to make a donation. Thank you very much. Please take care of yourself and see you soon. Bye.